around the barn. Have you ever dreamed of starting your own vegan business? Maybe you have a passion for certain products or starting a restaurant, or maybe you're actually thinking at it from a strategic angle. You already offer candles, but you want to now offer vegan candles. Whatever your why is, we brought together some really great folks, vegan business owners, and an organization that certifies products as vegan. So we had wonderful conversations. Come join us. I think you'll grab some really great golden nuggets. Hi, we have the pleasure of having Krissi Vandenberg, the Executive Director of Vegan Action, here with us, along with Mike and Sarah Keenan, who are the founders of the Juice Laundry. It is actually Charlottesville's only fully vegan restaurant, so absolutely had to have them join us today to have this discussion around wanting to start a vegan business, or maybe you're a vegan business and you want to offer vegan products. And we really thought having you all and your perspectives would be helpful to everybody, so welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So first and foremost, let's just start with why even start a vegan business, right? Like, what was that all about? And how did you all start that? Because till this day, right, there is still no other fully vegan competition. So tell us that, how did you get started? What were all of the considerations you had in putting that together? Coming into a city that had no option, how you'd be received, just all of those factors.
Yeah, so this was back in 2013. And first of all, as a organic juice and smoothie bar, most of our ingredients are fruits and vegetables anyway. It sort of lends itself to a plant-based menu in the first place. And that was really the starting point where it was like we could either be 95% plant-based or we could just be 100% plant-based. And, as both being plant-based ourselves at various points in our life, not always. I mean, I grew up eating a very traditional, we'll call it 80s and 90s diet. And it was something that I had gotten into personally, and really the decision to make the business fully vegan was a way to kind of try to show people who might have been me 5 or 10 years back, hey, you can have things that are really delicious and filling and satisfying, and you can be a weightlifter and this can work for you. You can be an athlete at UVA and this can work for you, whatever the case may be. And so that's sort of where it came from.
Yeah. And so then why Charlottesville?
So we both went to school here at various points. Sarah did her undergrad here. Well, we don't need to get into years. And then I went to law school here, and we both have always loved Charlottesville, I would say.
Yeah.
And we just kind of found ourselves back here, and
so since starting, how is it received? Right? Do people come in and go, oh, this is weird, right? Or do people actually go, oh, cool, what is this about? Let me taste that, or how is it received?
A lot of different ways. And it's almost like it goes through phases. But our intention at first was to not plaster the word vegan everywhere.
Okay.
So that we sadly get more people to walk in, and then they could have this amazing experience and then leave the store feeling full, satiated, and full of vibrant energy.
Yeah.
And then kind of make the connection of, oh, wow, that was all from fruits and vegetables. That is one way. And to be fair, about 90% of our customers are women. And then the men that come, a lot of times, their first time is a little bit begrudgingly, or they're coming with a girlfriend who wants to meet up there.
Dragging them in, right?
Yeah, and then they end up having this great experience. And yeah, like I said, we try not to stuff it down their throat, like, this is vegan, even though I'm very much that way in my personal life. So that's a little bit challenging. But also for me, I have celiac. So being vegan and celiac, and there's there's nowhere else I can eat, guaranteed, in Charlottesville. But when I visit my sister in cities like Denver, or she's lived in San Francisco, you know, you go there and there's a million options to choose from.
Yes.
And so having one place where people who are strictly vegan can come in and not have to scan the menu, ask questions, they can come in and order anything they
Substitution.
want.
Yes,
this and that.
right,
Yeah.
exactly.
It was really important for us.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is super important. Really peace of mind, right?
Yeah.
I mean, my God, amazing. All right, good. So then, Krissi, if it's the case that a business has maybe established, or maybe there are people that are thinking of it, maybe not restaurant focused, but maybe product focused, right? So what is it that is Vegan Action's mission, if you could tell us about that, and how you got started with
Right,
them?
sure. So our main mission is we are an ethical animal welfare organization first and foremost. So the organization started by what can we do to help animals in the greatest way possible. And so we do focus on education. And a few years in, so Vegan Action started in 1995, and a few years in, the founders started thinking about other ways to normalize veganism, which is one of the most successful ways to get as many people to not eat animal products as possible. So then one of them came up with the idea of this certified vegan logo for companies to use on products like the kosher logo. So I got involved with Vegan Action in '98, just as the organization started developing the guidelines and standards for the logo. So that was challenging because, you know, we had to define what vegan meant for a product. And it's hard to draw the line and make that kind of decision for things, but we had to do it, of course. And so we designed the logo, we came down with the specific guidelines, and we got the logo trademarked in just at the end of 1999. So in 2000, I am calling and faxing companies, begging them to consider using the logo on their products.
Wow.
Because this is a new thing, right? And so we decided to reach out to the vegan companies, kind of the smaller mom and pop folks, because we thought, okay, you're a new startup or you're small. This should help you, hopefully, get into the marketplace, get folks noticing you, and again, not have to have people read the label and wonder, is this really vegan or not? So we started getting some folks on board and starting to use the logo. And it really has had this amazing trajectory, a little slow at first, but it's been really had this huge upswing, especially in the last 10 years.
Yes.
And one of the major things that has changed is these large companies approaching us for certification, which we never would have imagined. It was also a little bit of a challenge because we were like, do we want to work with ConAgra? Do we want to work with Nestle? Do we want to work with these, you know, larger Unilever? So we had to have a lot of board meetings about that, as you would imagine,
yes,
right? But we always come back to the ultimate question, and that's what is in the best interest of the animals. And the answer for us is, you know, 98% of the animals that are killed on this planet are for food. So the most amount of people eating the least amount of animals and animal products is the better for all. So that is the mission that we always keep focused on. And so if Nestle wants to make vegan chocolate chips and get them vegan certified and get the word vegan out on these products that are in mainstream and help normalize vegan and veganism and vegan products, we determined that is in the best interest of animals, actually. And look, it's your pillow. So that was kind of a challenge, but that's kind of how that project has grown. And so the feedback we've gotten is that it has really helped some of these smaller companies with vegan products. it is definitely something that consumers look for now.
Yes.
Because you don't have to read, you don't have to call the company, you don't have to wonder. This is a vegan product. These ingredients have not been tested on animals. The final product has not been tested on animals. So that level of reassurance is really nice.
Yeah, you can't imagine how many times I have been right now a label reader for I don't know how many years now. I've been eating plant-based for a little over a decade.
Yeah.
So I've been like reading labels. But now immediately I see the V, I'm like, okay.
Right.
And you throw it in your cart, or whatever.
Exactly. It's really great. And we love that, we appreciate that there are companies, big, medium, small, that are using the logo, at all price points. So there's products at Walmart that have the certified vegan logo.
Yes.
There are products at every grocery store, and then there's products at the specialty shops. So, vegan products are accessible, they're affordable, and that's our mission.
Yeah.
That's our mission, is making it as easy and accessible to choose vegan as often as possible.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
So can you, I'm sure the certification process,
Ruby is like blocking.
Okay. Rubia.
She's like,
do you
this
really
is
have
the
to
best
root?
grass right
Yeah,
now.
exactly. Rubia. Rubia, can you move on, Mama? Okay, good. Yeah, no, don't bother the camera.
Oh my God.
Come this way, Rubia. Come on, Mama. Come on, I'm gonna have to give you a little push.
A little poop poop. A little pop pop.
Yeah. Ow. That tail of yours.
It's strong.
Now that we had Rubia move out of the way for a second, we'll continue discussing.
Yeah.
So Krissi, then, I'm sure the certification process is extensive, but maybe you can kind of give us the phases or what somebody would go through. Because if there is someone out there who wants to do, a vegan, is it all food products or any product at all?
Anything,
right?
anything, everything.
Okay.
So yeah, it's food, personal care products, supplements, clothing, shoes.
Love
we've certified mattresses, pillows, yoga mats, bamboo forks. Like, I'm trying to think. Yeah. So essentially, it's a pretty extensive requirement for documentation, and so it's a lot of work on the front end for companies to collect all of this documentation, because it has to be verified from the manufacturer of the ingredient. And we have to have 2 documents for every single ingredient.
Wow.
And it's to show, so essentially there's no official definition of vegan, right? So, if a company was like, or a manufacturer was like, I assure you our ingredients vegan. We're just like, well, we don't know what that means. So essentially our motto is, you have to convince us it's vegan by our standards. We decide if it's vegan, right? So the documentation that is provided to us, it has to just be super detailed, specific, and clear exactly what's in it. We require information on the processing, if there's processing aids, excipients, defoamers, anything added or used in that process. And we have to get this information from the manufacturer, not a distributor, not a supplier. In addition, we have to get signed confirmation from the manufacturer that that ingredient hasn't been tested on animals since the year 2000. Everything has been tested on animals at some point, which is very sad and depressing. But fortunately, things started to really change in the 2000s. Alternatives were available. Companies were able to start using things knowing that, okay, this is good to go. We don't have to worry about consumers being concerned about it. And also using humans voluntarily, especially for personal care products, where they're like, family, friends, they're willing to use this. Let's check and see how it goes. So we required that very detailed and specific verification. And some companies don't pass our guidelines because they don't know. They don't generally get that information when they're developing a product. So sometimes they don't know until they start to ask for that documentation. Some manufacturers don't want to provide documentation for various reasons. That's unfortunate. So we try to make it reasonable and feasible. But at the same time, it's a pretty challenging and rigorous process as well.
Yeah.
You know, but essentially we work for the consumer. We don't work for the company. We're a nonprofit organization, and our goal is to make sure we do our due diligence to verify these ingredients for the consumer. The company is our client, but that's not who we work for. So,
yeah, that's really fantastic. That's so great. So recently, I think I was telling you all that I had read some kind of statistic that globally, these economists that are now forecasting for the future around food, vegan food and so forth, are saying something like in year 2027, we're probably going to be hitting vegan food industry at about $35.5 billion for the industry itself. So I wanted to get your thoughts about that, as you all are vegan business owners, as you all are certified products over at Vegan Action. You know, is it the case that, you know, people should be thinking about their businesses and their products from a standpoint of passion, right? Let's get into this because I believe in this aligns with my values. Or is it the case that really maybe we should start looking at some statistics, right? And start going, the vegan candle business hasn't blown up yet. Maybe I need to jump into that business. You know, what are some of your thoughts about that? About the trend that it's growing to that level? Do you really think it's growing to that level? And then what do you think about for people thinking of starting their own businesses, where to get in on that? So I'll start here with Mike and Sarah, and then I definitely want Krissi's opinion too.
Yeah, I mean, I think that. Well, do you want to?
You can go first.
I think that it has to come from passion to some extent. I feel like I can always sort of tell when the veganism label is sort of being thrown around more from let's capitalize on this trend. It just doesn't have that feel to it. I mean, I think that if you are looking to start a business, and a vegan business at that, the passion behind it is important, just to, so you can genuinely connect with your audience, who you want to connect with. But I mean, that being said, and we talked a little bit about it before we were on air, but there is kind of a glut of products in certain spaces, and so I think that the market research, or at least having an understanding of who you're trying to sell this to and where, is important in terms of whether you're going to have a viable business that can last. But I think that for us, one of the reasons why we've been able to last for 7 or 8 years is because of the passion behind it. And I mean, we don't have statistics on it necessarily, but the vast majority of our customers are not vegan. And, I mean, it's just a fact. I mean, what's the vegan percent? 0.5%, maybe something like that. I mean,
right. I think somewhere between 2 to 7 million globally, right? I'm sorry, 2 to 7% globally, right? Is maybe vegan or something.
So I mean,
right.
Yeah, I don't know. It's there's a lot to it.
Okay, so I'm hearing, so from your perspective, I think this is really good, right? Is that maybe the initial ideation or the initial passion about what you start, whether it's business or product, is absolutely a passion for what you want to give or represent out in the world, or a piece of you, which, by the way, I have to say is very similar to us starting the sanctuary, mind you, okay? I mean, it literally is all passion, because there is no sustainability about this, right? I mean, a sanctuary, animals coming to a sanctuary, it's right, they live out their lives here, but it's a nonprofit, right? And so there's no productization going on here, right? There's nothing we're selling here, right? To then recycle more funds back in. So I can then see where you're saying, okay, you may start there, but you absolutely need to have the data and seeing how you're doing, right, to be able to grow and sustain your business. So it's a little bit of maybe both going back and forth, yeah? What do you think, Sarah?
Well, it's just such the conundrum, right, as a vegan. We saw one of the founders of Beyond Meat speak at TomTom a few years ago, and something he said was they package it, and I'm sure you've seen this, and design it to look like actual meat. And they asked to have it put in the meat section of grocery stores.
Yes.
And their idea is if we can get more people to at least replace one meal a week with a plant-based option, then that is a huge success.
Yes, right.
And to sit there in the crowd as a vegan, you're kind of like, ooh. But then again,
right.
If one person, if you're vegan for one day, that saves at least one animal's life.
Exactly. Least harm.
Right. The
yes.
least harm.
Right.
So it's just such this back and forth internally, and I think we see that a lot. And I've heard us all interchange plant-based and vegan.
Yes.
Which is another thing. We started using the word plant-based to soften the vegan. And then we've kind of started adding vegan back in, just because as we get older, I get more passionate about this cause, and it just kind of integrates into every part of your life. I mean, we live and breathe vegan, and I'm part of a running group in town, and when we ran our last marathon, we had a lot of people convert to plant-based for our training.
Nice.
And it was a great platform and place where people could ask questions, or, you know, if I'll come in and say, I got a new vegan toothbrush, people will say, what makes a toothbrush vegan, Sarah? And so we can open these doors and have these great discussions. And so when I think about what innovations there are, I mean, yes, consumerism is an issue with the planet as a whole. So thinking about what already exists and making it vegan. And animal testing for me is a huge thing that I think about all the time. And people know they can come to me and ask for me to provide them resources, or hey, can you make a recommendation about a laundry detergent? Or can we have a discussion about why a laundry detergent needs to be certified vegan?
Yes.
Why is it not vegan to begin with?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so for me, that would be...
No, I love that.
Yeah,
that's so good.
And having instances where people are able to connect with animals and understand, like when I explained how they would test a toothbrush in a non-vegan scenario.
Exactly.
It's very startling and off-putting to people. But if you start with that, that's a turnoff oftentimes. Which we found in our restaurant as well.
Right.
Which is why we had used the word plant-based.
Sure.
And I think we should go back to vegan.
Okay.
Well, for a while, I think we all probably lived through the shaming that comes with vegan.
Oh, yeah.
And you don't necessarily want to bring it up, because then it's an hour-long discussion and you're almost having to defend yourself. And whereas now I think people are becoming more open to it and they recognize it more. It's becoming more normalized. And when you were speaking about Nestle, it's tough, because even when we go to restaurants and they have a vegan option, it's like, well, I'm still supporting a business that supports the meat industry. And that's really tough internally. And so I'm just hopeful that all businesses will become vegan.
Right, yes.
And then the world can be such a better place.
I like that idea.
How about your perspective, Krissi?
Well, I think that I just having been on a different side, but in the industry for so long, that what I have noticed is successful, and I think statistically this is proven to be as well, is passion and solving a problem. And you mentioned that with your business, that you're passionate about it, but you're also solving a problem. This is something that didn't exist in the area. And then there are folks that also are vegan and might also have some other health issues that want vegan. So that's solving a problem. So you're putting those two things in. And that's similar to creating products, right? So we were saying earlier how there are some areas that are really saturated, right? And my example was granola bars. I love granola bars, but there are so many vegan granola bars. And so I understand that we all have different tastes and palates. But the idea of, what doesn't exist yet that maybe could be veganized, right? Or maybe improved upon. So we know that those products must be out there, but those are the ones that tend to really stick and work and stay. The area that I've seen grow as far as applications with certification is definitely textiles. So like shoes, clothing, these kinds of things. And again, sort of what you were saying with the toothbrush, people are like, well, what's not vegan about shoes, or what's not vegan about, whatever.
Yes.
But so it's not just leather. It's, it can be the accessories that are on there. It could be even things like the glue might have been tested or come from animal. So there are these things that if we have the option, why not choose the one that's cruelty-free, right? And that's actually vegan. And then to kind of touch on another thing you mentioned with the Conundrum is like, okay, so we've certified some jackets and shoes and products from Walmart. And so let's go back to the Conundrum idea. Pause.
Hold the sound out.
The ball.
So
the thought of, do I want to buy shoes or a pleather jacket from Walmart? Well, it's a lot cheaper, but then I'm supporting Walmart. But then I go back to, do I want these products being made for vegans, or do I want these products made for non-vegans? Back to the Beyond Meat question, right?
Sure, absolutely.
So yes, we want products for vegans because we want it to be easy to stay vegan, right? Yes. We want it to be affordable and accessible for everybody, folks that are already vegan. But the really big part is we want non-vegans to choose vegan.
Yes.
So if they're at Walmart and they can choose a pleather jacket instead of a leather jacket, that's awesome. If they can choose shoes that are vegan instead of leather shoes, because leather prices have decreased tremendously. Leather is so cheap now. So we want to have that competitive option, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So that's the tough one, and it's similar to kind of some of these, like when I heard that Beyond Meat was like, we only want our products to be in the meat section, I was like, hell yeah, that's brilliant. That's brilliant, because we want the meat eaters eating these things. And and so that's the tough thing, is that yes, we as vegans want to continue to have all of these really great options, but at the end of the day, I want these things to be for non-vegans.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
what I want. I want more people to choose vegan as often as possible. And if I have to eat rice and beans every day, that's fine too, because it's really cheap and easy anyway, I don't really need to go out to eat that much, but I like to, and when I do, I love that there's a vegan place that I can do that. So,
absolutely.
It's really about kind of balancing all these things. Nothing is black and white.
Yeah.
And there's going to always be these conundrums.
I am definitely all for normalizing, right? Like that, I am all for it. I don't particularly like that my money is, because I am a firm believer that your money votes for you, right?
Absolutely.
So I agree in this conundrum, right?
Right.
However, absolutely, every time I see whatever, McDonald's has come out with some whatever, and they're using whatever, right?
Right.
I will not give my money to any of the fast food restaurant chains, not one. Okay, never anymore, right? However, every time they have that come out, I'm always like, okay, good. It's now being a bit more normalized, right?
Yes, exactly.
It's more of an option. It's more of a choice.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, cool, great. Now, the people go, well, let me actually try that. Curiosity is now piqued, right? Because what I like about it is this. In particular, there is a pizza place that I love to go to. It's out in Colorado, actually. Every time I go in there is not one vegan in there, and that pizza is the jam. Let me tell you, it is so good. And everybody who's in there is like, wait, what? This is a vegan place. Everybody goes in there and says it. And I'm always like, score, right? Because at the end of the day, we just want to make good stuff.
Right.
Good food, good products, good clothes, shoes, whatever. Just make it good. And now, if it's this whole harmless kind of angle to it, where we're not using animals, then great, know. And what do you all think about technology's role in moving forward let's call it the vegan movement, right? Whether it's the health of people, the environment, or animals, right? Doing right by animals. How do you see technology's role in that? One of the things I had mentioned before was certainly vegans out there or anyone who's plant-based who may have a cat, be a guardian to a cat, might have a bit of a little bit of a conundrum there as well, right? And that cats are obligate carnivores. Well, anyway, technology is a big deal right now because now we're having, cultured cell meat of animals. So it's not necessarily a living animal, but an animal that was grown maybe in a lab to then be able to feed to cats. So it's this idea that technology now can help move us forward a bit too. Where do you all see that? Do you see that being kind of, I don't know, the savior? Or is it that we really just need to keep marketing products to the masses? Is that, what do we see as, and I won't call it the silver bullet, but I'll just say, what is the thing that will help us move us a bit more forward?
I think that, speaking about food specifically, since that's, kind of the business we're in, I see the two sides of it. You've got sort of the food technology side where we're kind of engineering these meat-like products that are going to appeal to people who want that experience. And we're getting closer, for lack of a better word, to real meat, whether it's a, burger or sausage, whatever it is.
Sure.
So there's that, but then there's also, I feel like technology is playing a role in terms of our ability to understand nutrition and health and what is, kind of what's making up these fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds, and how we can kind of combat the notion that you can't be healthy or get everything you need or grow muscle or whatever it is as a vegan. And so I think that they're both having a big impact in terms of sort of engineering these products that sort of answer those questions for us and fill those needs. And so, I mean, I think it's huge, and again, it's kind of that conundrum of that we keep talking about. It's kind of strange as a vegan to be supporting a product that is closer and closer and closer to meat, which is what we're trying to get people to avoid in the first place.
Right.
But it's just kind of necessary in terms of getting more people on board. And I mean, I think that very recently we've been seeing on Instagram and whatever else sort of the effects of how big this movement has become, or I should say how impactful it has become, not necessarily by numbers, but in terms of media coverage or pressure to be eating less meat and consuming less animal products, where now you have meat eaters defending the actually that statistic is it's misleading, this is what you should be looking at. And it's kind of ironic that they're the vast majority still, and now it's sort of like, what are you trying to do, like convince these vegans to get back on your team? Like, I mean, it shows how much has happened in the last decade, like you were saying.
Right.
I mean, it really is kind of snowballing. And the way that I always look at it, when people talk about, well, you have a vegan juice and smoothie bar, is that just a fad? Is that something that's going to be like frozen yogurt from the mid 90s and it's going to go away? And I always say, of course not, because once people feel what it feels like to be eating this clean, natural, plant-based diet, there's no going back for most of them. I mean, why would you?
Right.
And, it's something that really is going to only continue to snowball, I think. And I don't know where I've digressed from, but technology will help.
Technology will help.
Yeah, my brain went somewhere totally different with the technology question. I woke up to an email from PETA that said, is eating meat the new smoking? And for me, when I think of technology and veganism, I do think of Instagram. The movement there is huge. The visibility is huge. And when people do come and ask me questions, I have all these online resources I can point them to that break down ingredients, and you can trace them back. And organizations like yours that have done the work for consumers and have that accessible. And my greatest thing is everyone who I hang out with, they end up getting all kinds of vegan ads after they hang out with me because of the way phones communicate.
Right.
And then I get more of those questions of, I didn't know my running shoes weren't vegan, or Nike and Billie Eilish just came out with shoes, and I of course had to get them.
Right.
And I posted about them, and my inbox blew up and I think that for
that's really cool.
for vegans,
for awareness
and community, it's so great to be able to make those connections on a personal level and provide people with those experiences. So to me, that's the way technology has developed in our community.
Absolutely.
Those connections,
to move it forward.
And I don't know where your brain went with it.
My brain went right to cultured meat. And I was just kind of thinking that, like, I love the idea of people doing the right thing for the right reasons. And so that's kind of what navigates me and motivates me every day. I consider myself an optimist, but also a realist. And so that's sort of how I think about cultured meat options. But you made a really good point, is that we're sharing really important factual information with people that meat products are not healthy. We already talk about the fact that they're terrible for the animal and for the planet, but they're truly not healthy to continue to consume, even if you take away the animal and the environment piece. But I do like the idea of that option there, because the realist in me knows that everyone is not going to do the right thing for the right reasons. So I like that option is there, especially for companion animals. I think that is just wonderful. To have that option. But then I again go back to the conundrum of, yesterday or Friday, I apologize, can't remember, was World Hunger Awareness Day. And there's still 1 billion people on this planet that are going hungry. Right? That are not getting enough nutrition every day. And it's not for lack of food availability, right? It's about distribution, and it's about how land is being used and what's being grown. Crops are being grown to be fed to animals, not to be fed to people. It's a really messed up system. So then there's this part of me that's like, forget using technology to grow cultured meat. We need to change the entire system about what, how we're using land and how we're using resources and what we're growing to feed this entire planet. So I feel really torn about that. So I kind of want this, I kind of want this immediate answer of, okay, fine, you still want to eat meat, okay, here's your cultured meat burger, fine, take it. But then there's this other part of me that's like, we need to really disrupt this entire system and rebuild it with something completely different.
Right.
So it's hard. It's hard.
It is.
Yeah.
And so for those out there wanting to start a business, and it be a vegan business or vegan products, what parting words do you all have for those people? Whether it be realist or whether it be optimist or I don't know. What is it that you would tell them? They're sitting back, they've got an idea. What do you want to leave them with?
I think going to something Krissi said is filling a need. Have the passion behind it, but like where are you really going to stand out or differentiate yourself in the sense of adding something to what is out there? There are so many now plant-based cheeses and plant-based milk alternatives and stuff like that. And, there's plenty of other areas where, I think that there can be a huge impact made and, really think about that.
Great. Awesome. Sarah, Krissi, parting words?
I would say work from the heart.
Work from the heart.
Yeah, and listening to Krissi talk about their certification process and tracing things back to where they come from, and knowing the ins and outs of absolutely everything that you're putting into or working with, and just understanding that. And I think when you start to work from the heart, you ultimately will go back to nature and make these connections. And I don't know, I'm all about passion.
Yes,
so.
I feel it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
When I think about my thought went right to business. I guess because I've kind of talked about product a little bit, but my thought is, I know it's challenging, but finding that sweet spot of being proud about being vegan, but also being open and accessible. And so trying to really find that middle ground, because again, we do want to serve vegans, but we also want to bring other folks in. And I love how you all mentioned that the great majority of the folks that come into your place are not vegan. And so I think that takes some work. It probably depends on where you live, where you are, who lives nearby, what you're making, what you're selling, but really keeping that in mind of, I'm really passionate, I'm really strong about being vegan, but what can I do? How can I present my business to get as many folks in as possible?
Yeah. Really great. Great. I would love to see if I could even just throw my 2 cents into this, because I know we've been talking a lot about kind of like the business idea as well as products, and really we were focusing on that as information for you all. But I think I would love to see more around, Krissi, you were starting to head that way around processes, right? That. Because it's not the sexy stuff and it's not the fun stuff, but there's somebody brilliant out there that can really, really work on things like that. Like, I don't know, I had heard about like our cell phones, right? That even that we can't even say doesn't get touched by animals, because there's like lard that greases the machines and stuff. I mean, just everything is touched by animals, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I would love to see. More people taking on process efficiency and efficiently being able to weed out, animal products in that. I think that for me would be where I'd love for people
those
to
replacements.
go.
Replacing those animal-based item or ingredients with alternatives.
Sure. Absolutely.
That's cool.
Well, I cannot thank you all enough for coming and joining and having this conversation around Beat Around the Barn. Again, if you all are having those thoughts and have a passionate idea, I will put all of their links to their businesses and their organizations in the show notes. So if you want to reach out in any kind of way, by all means, reach out to us as well if you just want to chat through some ideas and so forth. And thanks so much. We actually have Andy Nevers coming up next as well to chat through how we can connect the vegan community businesses all together on a platform that he's created.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, Andy. Thanks so much for joining us on Beat Around the Barn.
Hi, Annie. Thanks for having me. It's a delight to share my experience and my journey, and I'm excited to chat with you today.
Awesome. So we met at the VegFest that you had produced and hosted with your company and your brand. So we want to hear all about that in a second. But I always like to start off with, what is your going vegan story? Could you maybe share that with us as a starting place?
Yeah, so my going vegan story, I don't think it's very unique, because a lot of people saw the same documentaries that I saw and went vegan. And so I saw What the Health and Forks Over Knives. And, for people who have seen those, the information in there is so powerful, I believe. It's life-changing. And I am definitely a testament to that. And so I saw What the Health and Forks Over Knives. And the information for me was just so compelling. I wanted to try veganism. And I really was pulled in from the health, sort of the health information perspective. Because, I've always prided myself in being healthy and being fit my whole life. I played sports growing up. I went to the Marines. And so I was always very active. And I sort of hit a point in my life where, for the first time, I had gotten into tech really heavy. And so I was spending a lot of time on my computer. And so I wasn't necessarily prioritizing health anymore as much. And so when I saw this, it was sort of right at that moment when I feel like my health was sort of, somewhat gradually falling off. And I really was thinking about it more subconsciously than consciously. And I think the documentary is just kind of say, okay, so I could try this lifestyle. Well, it was I was seeing it as a diet initially, right? So I could try this diet, and so I wanted to try it, just become healthy, just to become healthier. And also there was some scary information about heart disease and high cholesterol and sort of the implications. And so I was like, whoa, it was like also a wake up call. And so I jumped in, and I was just going to try this diet. And then next thing I knew, I just learned so much about it, and it just it all just started making so much sense. And it started where I wanted to introduce all this information to my friends and family. But then I started thinking on a broader scale. I said, this information is so important. I want everybody to have access to it. And so, that's where I started my first company, which we're going to talk about here in a bit. But it started from those documentaries, just becoming very curious about getting healthier, and then next thing I knew, it just sort of it gradually moved into something much bigger. Now I consider myself an activist, which I can't even imagine. I could not have imagined prior to those documentaries saying that I'm going to be a vegan activist, and all that stuff. But yeah, it's been an exciting journey.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, we identify with that as well, because starting a sanctuary is its own kind of form, right, of animal activism for sure.
For sure.
Okay,
yeah.
So you've seen all these documentaries, you start making this change in your life. How now does that translate to you wanting to start your company, which is Plantarion, right? Did I say that right?
Exactly. Yeah, Plantarion. It was the first one that we started. Okay. And so I assembled a team. As I mentioned, I've really gotten into tech since really heavily in 2014. And in terms of developing website and mobile applications. And so I acquired a lot of knowledge around this. And so I guess I should share that I've only been vegan for about 4 years now. So it was around 2017 that I discovered the documentaries. And so, I said, what can I do? How can I help this movement? What can I bring to the table to really be impactful and be helpful? And one of sort of the themes that I saw, one theme that I saw jumping out was a lot of people struggle to go vegan. And as I try to think about, sort of my pain point of going vegan was the challenges around making food. And so I said, okay, what if I could download an app, right? Because you have an app for everything nowadays, right? So I said, what if I could download an app and I could, connect with folks that make just delicious vegan food. And I started seeing a lot of vegan food on like Instagram, and I was like, oh man, my food never looks like that when I make it, And so I said, where are all these people living? What if I could just download this app and connect with these folks, and they could make me food, and for a fee, or whatever their business model is. And so that's where the idea for Plantarion started. But then I recognized that some people don't have that challenge going vegan. They don't mind cooking; they enjoy that. Someone may have a personal, a need for like a personal trainer, for example, and they want to find one that's vegan. And then the list sort of expanded from there. And so what Plantarion is today is somewhere where you go to this platform and you connect with, whether it's a plant-based chef, a nutritionist, health coach, and it's to help you on your journey as you transition into veganism, and also help you to stay vegan. Because that's another part of the challenge is you discover the lifestyle, you go be vegan, and then after a while, some people just kind of, for one reason or another, they give it up because it's so challenging to maintain, especially depending on where you're living and the people that your support, your community, and so that was really my inspiration to dive in and do Plantarion. But I launched a second business. This was about a little over a year ago now, during the pandemic. A few of my creatives on Plantarion, they said, hey, wouldn't it be nice if we make our own t-shirts? So I'm wearing one today, Vegan Boss. And I said, well, no, we're a technology company because, I'm super knowledgeable about that. I don't know much about the clothing industry. I don't want to get into that. And plus, I don't want to run two companies at the same time. So, but long story short, the folks on the team convinced me to start doing t-shirts. And I'm really glad that we did because I saw it as another channel, another avenue to really, like you're doing now, is to have conversations about veganism, about, plant-based living, about sustainability, because it's all connected, right? And so now people see me walking around with my Vegan Boss shirt and they say, hey, they come up and they say, hey, are you vegan? And that's how the conversation gets started. And so, so now I'm running two companies. One is the technology side and one is the clothing side.
Absolutely. So with Plantarion and the site or this app, is the reach of all of the vegan businesses or services in there in the DC, Washington, DC area, or is this over the US? Where is the reach, the footprint?
Yeah, so we started focusing on DC, and then we expanded United States. Now we're global. So people from anywhere in the world can join Plantarion and list their services. And similarly, you can join Plantarion if you're seeking, a personal trainer, a vegan chef. So the reach is global, and that's, the movement is global. So we figured, why not just open the door and just let everyone come in? Yeah.
That's great. That's great. And for those of you watching, we'll make sure we have all of the links in the show notes for you so that you all can go ahead and sign up in case you are looking for a vegan business, or maybe you run one and want to then be able to sign up as well.
Right.
Okay, so you've got these two businesses, right, going. What would you say for those out there that are dreaming about their vegan business? What are some of the benefits, some of the challenges, or maybe even some advice you might give folks who are wanting to start their own vegan business?
Yeah. I answer this question very often, and I tend to always go back to my entrepreneurial roots. And, for those of us who have the call-in or the vision to create, as a creator, that's what I see entrepreneurship as. You have a vision and you want to bring something to life. You want to bring something to market. You always just have to kind of stay focused on that, because if you talk to any entrepreneur, they're going to tell you, creating a business, a venture, it's extremely challenging. But what keeps you going is knowing that, you have this vision of creating change and making an impact. And, for our businesses that we're working on, Plantarion and, GreenBodyBrand, that's what I look back to every time, I'm having a day, like even today I was having technical challenges. And can you imagine the tech guys having tech difficulties? But in any case, I always go back to my why. Why am I doing what I am doing? And it fires me up. It keeps me going, and it gives me that perspective. And so, any advice that I could give people is to always, just remember why you're doing what you're doing, and at the end of the day, that will keep you moving along. You're going to have ups and you're going to have downs. All entrepreneurs go through that. But at the end of the day, just, really remember your passion for why you started in the first place. And that's going to keep you going.
Absolutely. Okay. So then now you are up and going and you're fired up and so forth. And now here's Hogs and Kisses, and I come across a VegFest in DC. So tell us a bit about why you decided to create that. And also, no less, in the middle of all of the pandemic, right, going on as well. So what was the catalyst for all of that?
Well, it's interesting because we made a decision to do a VegFest because we were looking forward to, the pandemic has just kind of had us all indoors for a while, separated from our friends and family. And we wanted to do an event. We wanted we wanted to prioritize safety first and foremost. And so we actually been planning a VegFest type event before the pandemic happened. So there's a backstory to that. So we've been wanting to do an event, but even as we went into COVID, we became even more restless. Like, we don't know how long this thing is going to drag on. But there was sort of a light at the end of the tunnel, if you will, where people started getting their vaccines and the masks were coming off, if you could remember a few months ago. And we were like, aha, this is the time now that we could do a VegFest. And so we started looking for partners, and we realized that the annual VegFest that happens in DC was, postponed and not happening this year. And so we said, okay, this is the window for us to, sort of just, put something together and bring people out. And again, going back to my why, I see everything that I do, if I'm only talking to one person, I see it as very important that I'm talking veganism and introducing that to one individual. But I see an event as an opportunity to bring more people in from the community into a space and show them that, veganism is sustainable. Like you can eat, you can live, you can thrive. And so the nonprofits are there and talking about the values that they bring, like your nonprofit, of course, came through, and just a host of other food and non-food vendors, and just a great community atmosphere is what I envisioned creating. And I'm happy to announce and share that as you were there, that it was a success. Certainly there was it was a little scary with the Delta variant sort of coming back and that becoming a thing, and but nonetheless, we were able to go out there, have this event, had a good time. And I think it was successful from the perspective of reach, because when I look online and I look at the data, over 3,000 people viewed the page, over 1,000, close to 1,000 people picked up tickets to attend the event. And so we definitely reached quite a few people. And that's what it really was about. It was about reaching folks. And so we started this as our first VegFest. And next year, not quite sure exactly how it's going to play out, if we're going to partner with the DC VegFest, if we're going to do our own. But we're still talking through that as a team now, to figure out what's next for us. Because at the end of the day, we want to work smarter, not harder, right? And then we want to recognize that we're all in this together, just from the work that you're doing, rescuing the animals, to the work that we're doing on the tech side, helping people to transition and sustain the lifestyle. All of it comes together, sort of for one reason, and that's to, a variety of reasons. That's to get people to be healthier, to save our planet, and then, of course, to save our animals. And all of us believe in all three of those things. So, it's really important that we work together.
Yes, absolutely. I really got that feeling by attending the VegFest that you put on, because, it was this sense of just rural community, right? And support, certainly from all the vendors and our nonprofits and so forth. And everybody who attended that came by and was talking with us, we're just so excited to hear, okay, great, what are you doing? Oh, wow. And then, oh, what food is there? And, oh, you've got a t-shirt coming. Oh, you're selling candles. Oh, great. I mean, it was really, really lovely, I think, for both aspects, for someone starting the business, but then, of course, consumers, right? Wanting to be able to support as well and really put their dollar towards what they believe in, So would you recommend things like that, like a VegFest, or I don't know, maybe other creative ways to bring the vegan business community together?
Yeah, I absolutely, that I would recommend that people look into doing that. And folks, beyond just kind of doing a VegFest, just this idea of uniting as a community. I feel like one of the things that I discovered when I went vegan was just how fragmented the community. You have folks that are probably neighbors and they're working on separate things and they're just not working together. And so one of the things that I really want to encourage people to do is, find out what's happening in your community, find out how you guys kind of complement each other with the work that you're doing, and just, recognize that together we're stronger. And, I used to see things like veganism is the future when I just became vegan, and I was just like, it sounded absurd to me at the time, but now I say to myself that it has to be the future.
Yes.
We need it to be the future, because the other way of living is just, it's not sustainable. It's just all around not good. This is not good for us as people. It's not good for the animals, and it's not good for the planet. So what can we do together to really drive and make veganism become a mainstream, lifestyle? Because that's really what we are all after.
Absolutely. Yes. In our town here, Charlottesville, there is a fest as well here. I think they usually do it around fall, but of course, as we've been talking about COVID and the variant and so forth, I think that it has been postponed, but it actually then gave rise to other nonprofits, and our nonprofit. We're all talking about, what if we did something a little more intimate, and it's outdoors, and make sure we have all the safety protocols into place, and we can still push forward and unite, but maybe it's on a little bit more of an intimate scale, because I agree with you. Like, we cannot do it alone. We have to be able to unite and do it together. And we're just stronger, right? When we're together. So, exactly.
Yeah, and there's just so much work to be done. I mean, you think about, we are seeing a lot of success in terms of, if you look at the data and the growth of veganism. I hear people who have been vegan like 30 years ago, and I listen to their story, and it's certainly been definitely a different time for me, being able to go to places and have just the whole thing as a vegan restaurant, this idea of just going there and everything on the menu, you don't have to worry about whether or not you want to veganize an item, or it's all vegan. And so this largely didn't really exist some time ago. But we still have a long way to go, because there's still sort of, the distortion of veganism and what it really means, and all of this, just negative information out there, that we really just need to, we need to be out in more of a force to give people the right information, so that way they're equipped, they can do the research on their own, and even just being exposed to it, it's another good thing. And so since my VegFest, I actually went to another VegFest, and it was down in Richmond, Virginia, and that was really awesome. And the message there was similar, just keep pushing, and trying to get more of the community involved, and exposure to this way of life, which we want to be mainstream way of life soon.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, wow, it's been so amazing talking to you, Andy. I would love to maybe leave viewers with one thing. If you could sum it up in like one word or a phrase, what does it really take to start a vegan business?
Ooh, the one word that comes to mind when it comes to starting a vegan business, or any business really, is it's challenging. It's challenging, but the other word too that comes to mind, it's also rewarding. Because it's challenging to put the thing together, but then when you start to see the impact of your vision, there's no real, I guess it's really difficult to put all of that in words of, that feeling that you get when, if I put Plantarion in sort of the context, like, people are joining Plantarion, people are hiring them for their services, and then people are finding these services on there that are going, that are helping with their challenges. And so when you see that vision is coming to life, it's just all worth the work, and so that's how I would sum it up. You're going to work hard, but it's also going to be great in terms of the rewards that you're going to reap from it.
Absolutely. So I would agree 100% because even though we are nonprofit, right, it's still, you have to look at it as a business, right? Because
Exactly.
Obviously we're raising money for animals and education and awareness and so forth. And it is, absolutely challenging, as well as the fact that, I never grew up with farm animals, right? So the learning curve even, right, of that.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, in doing it, it doesn't matter how many challenges come along, I cannot in my head fathom doing anything else. It's every day, this is a full self-expression, right, of myself, and it's also a part of a bigger thing, a bigger ideal that we're all working towards, right? So it's great. I agree with you. So challenging and pushes us in many different directions.
Oh, yeah.
But it is it's so rewarding because it's you and you're putting your vision out in the world. So absolutely. Wow. Well, thank you so much, Andy, for spending some time with us today, but then also to putting on the VegFest. We were very fortunate to be there, and I'm so happy that we got to be a part of it. And I hope that the rest of you out there would just go and check out Plantarion and see if you can get connected, maybe, right, to some businesses that would benefit you.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I admire the work that you're doing as well. I've been to a few sanctuaries now, and I'm always just really impressed with the amount of work that goes into it, and just the dedication and devotion that folks who run these sanctuaries like you do, just how you guys just roll your sleeves up every day and take care of these animals, and keeping them safe and fed and healthy. It's really just amazing, and it's important work. You hear all these stories about animals just kind of getting left and cast to the side, and for whatever reason, and it's really cool, the work that you guys are doing, and I know that I personally appreciate it. So, but yeah, thank you so much for having me on. It was great chatting. It was great meeting you at the VegFest. I hope that we continue to collaborate and do more things as we move forward. But yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, talk soon.
All right. See you later.
Bye, Andy.
Bye.
Hi. Thanks so much for joining us here at the VegFest. We'd love to start by hearing your going vegan story.
Yeah.
So your name and your going vegan story, and then also too, what attracted you to come to the VegFest today?
So my name is Elena. I'm a student at Georgetown University, and I went vegan not so long ago, around 8 months ago, when I came to the US, and I made these two friends through a class I took on environmental policy, and they were vegan, and I didn't know that they were vegan, but we were having a wine and cheese board night, and I was like, hey guys, these cheese taste great, but it tastes kind of funky as well, the texture is kind of different, what you do to it? And they were like, oh, these are vegan cheese. And I was like, what is that?
Yeah.
And then they were like, oh, veganism, are you curious about that? I'm like, yeah, I've been curious about vegetarianism for a while, but I haven't really heard about veganism. And they're like, oh, you came to the right place, girl. And then we talked for 4 hours about veganism, about climate change, about the intersection between veganism and racism, and veganism and sexism.
Yes.
And then we were like, all right, next time we meet, let's watch ABC documentaries. Let's the week after that, let's read this book together. So it was a course almost that I was so enjoying. Homework that I enjoy. First time in my life.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So it was really a no-brainer for me. A super intellectual process, and that's how I like to do things when I learn something new.
And so then how'd you hear about this? Is just because you're aware now of vegan events, or what attracted you to come?
Yeah, so I love like the community aspect of veganism. You know, most people I meet who are vegan, like I automatically just trust them more because I know like they have the right values that I align with.
Yes.
So they were like trying to help me get engaged with more community activities. So they signed me up for DC area vegans, I think.
Yeah.
And this VegFest notification popped up, so we all were like, let's go together as a group.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so great. Okay, so do you have any favorite vegan businesses?
Yeah, so I've been thinking about this for a bit.
Yeah.
I actually don't,
Uh-huh.
and I honestly think it's just because I'm very new to it.
Uh-huh.
So I'm still like in the process of like finding vegan vendors, like finding vegan food, vegan goods, like.
Yes.
So I'm still on the search.
Definitely, yeah. And there's so many more coming up, like popping up a lot, right?
I love that.
Which is great.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good. So then, is it important to you to buy vegan? Like, is that an important thing? Like, when you're thinking like, oh, I'm going to buy a shampoo today, or I'm going to buy a mascara, or whatever, is that an important aspect as part of your buying?
You know, I didn't really think about it, but then like I caught myself doing it. Like I would be in Sephora, like looking for mascara.
Yes.
And then I'd be like asking the person working there, like, hey, like, is this mascara vegan? And they're like, let me go check. But it's like a funny question. I'm like, but in my mind, it was a completely logical question.
Yes.
Because I know makeup tests on animals.
Yes.
So I think, to answer your question, completely yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
important, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so fantastic. We can't thank you enough for showing interest in Farm Sanctuary and speaking with us today. And I really hope you enjoy the rest of your afternoon here with the VegFest.
I'm having so much fun. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Wow, what amazing conversations. Whether it was Mike and Sarah starting their business, their restaurant, or Krissi from the Vegan Action Group, right, giving the information around certifying your products. Andy Nevers bringing the community together so that you can actually find vegan businesses. And also, too, the attendees from the VegFest. Right, so many different perspectives on starting a vegan business and all of the pieces that go with it. So whatever your why is, we absolutely hope you the best and hope that you found some wonderful information. We are going to put all of the companies' links and so forth in the show notes, and we absolutely would love it if you put some comments as well under the video telling us what is your vegan business or what is your idea you're starting. If you have any questions, please do reach out to these resources. And thank you so much for beating around the barn with us.